Hi, my name is Tiffany Bova. I am the Growth and Innovation Evangelist here at Salesforce. I want to thank you for spending time with me here today to talk about growth IQ, getting smarter about the decisions that will make or break your business. So let me start at the beginning. 1,000 customers means 1,000 opportunities. It's an amazing quote by a friend of mine, Naomi Simpson. She's the co-founder of the Big Red Group and also has been seen on Shark Tank Australia. She really helped me understand that with every touch point we have with customers, we have an opportunity to either improve their experience with our brand, to sell them more products or services, or just listen to the things that they may need in the future from us. But always remember that every touch point you have with a customer, on or offline, gives you another opportunity to engage with them in a meaningful and impactful way. So let me start by setting the scene about what's happening in the marketplace today. The first thing I'll tell you is that the number one priority for SMBs is growth. It's about providing consistent experiences across all the channels that you may use from a sales and marketing perspective. Giving the reps, your sales reps, a single view of the customer helps to actually deliver compelling and meaningful customer experiences. And then engaging proactively with your customers keeps you in front of what they may want next. So it isn't just about delivering them what they need today. It's also about delivering to them what they will need in the future. The second thing that is important to SMBs is new customers and new customer growth, and sharing these goals between sales and marketing to make sure everybody is going in the same direction. Using customer data to create targeted experiences. It's very important that your customers feel like you know them, you personalize what they get from you, you serve them in a way and in a location that they're interested in having you do that. But more importantly, that you're prioritizing analytics and insights so that you can make much different decisions about how you're going to grow your business and serve your customers going forward. The third is profitability. And really the way that we should be viewing this today is during this time of unprecedented change, we have an opportunity to pause and think about resetting the way we engage with our customers, creating these self-service channels, allowing them to go to knowledge bases, or using bots in order to deliver fast and personalized customer service engagements. Using that customer data to create very targeted experiences. And you can do that using artificial intelligence and automation. At the end of the day, this is about using technology and humans, not replacing humans with technology. This is all about making sure that you empower your employees to do what's best for your customers. So that is the opportunity. That is the opportunity we have to serve our customers in new ways. But here is the reality. Consistent growth is becoming harder. And as I mentioned as we began, right, this is about growth IQ. Here is the Korean version of the book. And I can tell you that the opening sentences of growth IQ is all about how do we build repeatable and consistent growth into our business. And why is it becoming harder? Is because customers are shifting the digital transformation playbook. We have this opportunity that we've been seeing from all kinds of research that more digital transformation has happened in the last 6 months than potentially has happened in the last 10 years. And a lot of this is being driven by customers and consumers wanting more from the brands they're engaging with. And now that many are working from home and still working from home, could be educating their children from home, doing healthcare from home, but more importantly, no longer going to an office at this time. It means that we have to start thinking differently about using technologies to serve our customers in these new digital ways. And so it's not just about mobile. It's not just about a desktop. It's not just about apps. It's not just about customer service bots. It's not just about using social media channels in order to engage with and sell to clients. It's about doing all of those things simultaneously. And so how do you navigate the new standards of engagement? How do you find your way through these changes that are happening in the marketplace today? The first thing I'd say is the one thing about growth is it's never just one thing. So I had done, prior to coming to Salesforce, I was a research fellow at Gartner Group, helping some of the smallest and very largest technology companies in the world with their go-to-market strategies and their sales strategies. And I can tell you that it landed me on these 10 paths to growth. I feel like everything businesses do today could fall into one of these paths, but I'm specifically going to talk about a couple. The first thing I'm going to say to you is that not all paths in isolation work well. You almost always need to combine them with other paths. So I would say to you, customer experience, optimize sales, and customer base penetration are three paths that I feel should always be in combination with any of the other paths you choose, because you always want to be delivering a meaningful and engaging customer experience. You always want to make sure that you're selling in an optimal way so that you're engaging customers in the right channel with the right products at the right time. And then also making sure that you are thinking about the future and how you can serve your customers not only today, but also tomorrow. The second thing I'd say to you is sequence matters. The order in which you do things matters. Meaning, do you make a decision to expand into a new market before you set up partnerships? Or should you set up partnerships before you expand into a new market? The timing in which you do those things has implications to your success. So thinking about which order you do things, at which time, in which sequence, actually has to match your company's ability to deliver those changes that you've decided to do from a business and a growth perspective. So customer experience, as I mentioned, was my very first path. It's one I think should be combined with all others. And it's proven to be a very significant differentiator in the marketplace. C-suite executives from around the world have emphasized customer experience over products. 67% of customers will pay more for a great experience. We know in hospitality or in airline, hotels, we know those that really stand out for those exceptional experiences. And so how do you then, and they charge more money. And so how do you apply that kind of thinking to your own business, even if you're in a completely different industry than hospitality? And those that focus on customer experience actually have much higher growth rates, a growth rate higher than their peers and potentially even higher growth rate than the market. This has everything to do with if your customers are happy, they buy more. They buy more, they might buy more frequently. They will talk about it to their friends. It gives you the ability to be much smarter in your transactions from a growth perspective. The next is they want the same experiences that they get in their personal lives. So think about business to consumer or B2C and applying that to B2B. The business to business equation is really important here. And so that is where customer experience has the ability to separate you from the pack. The next one is customer base penetration. Let me be really clear what I mean here. This is about selling more to the existing customers that you already have, that you've already acquired. Now, if you're a startup and you don't have any existing customers at this time, always keep this in mind when you're planning from a strategic standpoint. Make sure that once you acquire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 customers, that you don't forget about them, that you keep making sure that you're paying attention to who it is you've already acquired so you can give them higher levels of service going forward. So it costs 6 to 7 times more to actually go out and acquire net new customers than to try to sell more to the existing customers that you have. The probability of selling is 60 to 70% versus net new customers is 5 to 20. So always go where you have a friendly, where they've already told you they want to do business with you, so you can potentially sell them more. The next is repeat customers spend 67% more than first-time customers. So getting them to buy not only more of what they've already purchased, but potentially other products and services that you have. And so going into your basic customers, especially as you start to grow, gives you 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 accounts that you could sell to on a daily basis versus going externally to customers who don't know who you are and spending so much more with so much more risk. And those existing customers are 5 times as likely to repurchase and forgive, 4 times as likely to refer, and 7 times as likely to try new offerings. So as you launch new products, trying to go get net new customers may not be the best place for you to start. Ultimately, I will tell you that I feel like 2020 is the year of the existing customer and not the net new customer, because you have such an opportunity to give them so much more value than potentially that net new customer. The third one is optimizing the way you sell, making sure you're always spending time on making your sales process simpler and easier for your customers to navigate through. Their buyer journey and your sales process are 2 very different things. So you want to make sure you're always driving towards a simpler experience. That has implications on the customer experience if the sales process is more difficult or more cumbersome and it has a lot of friction in it, meaning you make it difficult for them to work their way through to actually buy something from you. And only about 22% of customers, our businesses are actually satisfied with the conversion rates that they have. So there's a ton of room for improvement. 44% of sales organizations list optimizing sales as a top sales objective, meaning if you have 10 salespeople, 20 or 100 or 1,000, the average selling organization spends only about 34% of their time selling. 66% of their time is spent on non-selling activities. And more than half your entire sales team will miss quota this year, pre-pandemic, which means during this time, that number and those numbers will even be higher, spending more time on non-selling and having more of your sales team miss quota and potentially miss quota at an even more significant rate, which means you always want to make sure you're trying to make it easier for them to sell and easier for your customers to buy. And 54% of sales organizations don't actually formally align their sales process, which means, once again, as we have this pause, and I don't mean that it isn't something we have to pay attention to and all the challenges that so many small businesses have today. But if you are able to sell and you're open, what you need to do is make sure that you take this time to reevaluate all the processes you have in place, your organizational structures. How are your sales teams organized? What do they do on a daily basis? What are the things they need to be focused on based on what's going on? At the end of the day, this is really about making sure your selling team has everything they need to be successful. So it isn't just about the tools. It isn't just about the processes, and it isn't just about the people. Remember, I said at the beginning, it's the combination of multiple things. It's never just one thing. So thinking about customer experience, customer base penetration, and optimizing sales, those are 3 very distinct work streams that you could have an entire team focused on. I worry that if you have the same team focused on all 3 of those paths, as an example, that they don't do any one of them really well. And so make sure you have people who are solely focused on each one of those paths, and then create a teaming environment where they have the metrics in place, the tools in place to collaborate and share, a feedback loop for you to hear from your employees if they like the changes, a feedback loop to hear from your customers if the changes have meaning to them from a business perspective. This is about making sure you're aligning all those things, not only your people, but your people and your customers. So let me wrap this up by saying these final thoughts. That for me, growth is a thinking game. It's an opportunity for you to outthink your competition. You may have the exact same products or services or things that are very, very close, but it's really about how you do things. You have to make time for selling. You cannot just force your salespeople to spend all their time in doing research or entering data or following up or doing the busy work to make sure that what was sold is actually being delivered. You have to help them. You have to give them room to sell from a time perspective. Once again, optimizing the way you sell requires you to do an inventory potentially on all your business processes, on the patterns, on the sequence in which you actually make your sellers do things, and more importantly, what you actually require your customers to do. The second is trading your intuitions for insight. The data will tell you what you should be doing next, but that means you have to actually look at the data. So data may be the new oil, as many have said, but you actually need analytics to be the refinery, because the petrol, your gasoline, is actually insights. Taking that data, analyzing it, letting it guide you on your next best action as a seller, as a marketer, as a customer service agent, more importantly, as an executive. Just because you've always done things the way you're doing them today does not mean that you need to do them the same way going forward. Taking the time to understand what are the ways you could change the business using the insights you now have at your disposal, especially if you're using a tool like Salesforce. The next is not to chase your perceived competition. And what I mean by this is just because your competitors are doing something doesn't mean you should also. You are the only company on the planet that has your brand name, that has your employees working there, that has your culture, potentially that has your specific product and the way you do things. So your mental model is really your competitive differentiation, not what you do, but how you do it. Not what you do, but why you do it. And that's why you can't just chase your perceived competition, because there's only one of you, and your superpower, the thing that makes you unique, is what you should actually focus in on. That's how you compete against your competition, not just copying what they do. The next one is don't be afraid of technology, embrace the benefit. And this goes back to my comment of human and technology. I don't believe we will have less salespeople. I don't believe we will have less customer service agents. I don't believe we will have less marketers. What I do believe is that whether you're in sales, marketing, or customer service, that you should worry about those who are using technology to do their job better. As a seller, the most powerful power couple right now is sales and AI. And using that artificial intelligence and next best action and insights to deliver this sort of insight selling, and use that as a valuable differentiator for you. This mental model is something you have to really focus in on. So depending on what size your organization is, or more importantly, what your role is in the organization, you may not have the ability to influence or impact the way the business does things. But if you're a team manager or an individual contributor, and you can make a suggestion on how the business could do something different, the how and the why, and you suggest it to leadership and you show them or tell them or share with them or have them listen in on conversations so they can experience how that change would actually benefit more than just that individual contributor. This mental model is very powerful, but it requires you to have a beginner's mind, giving yourself enough space in the decision-making process to do things a little bit differently than you may have done them just 6 or 8 months ago. The next is to rally around the customer. I believe that you can be customer-centric, but you have to be employee first and customer-centric, meaning that if your employees are happy, your customers will be much more happy. So how can you make it easier for them to do their job? Eliminate multiple logins, a single source of truth for customer information to make sure there's one location everyone can go to find out about the customer. That the systems are actually connected, that you're gaining value from all that data and intelligence and insights so that you can treat your customers in a very unique, personalized, and individualized fashion. That's how you really can win in today's market. And if you rally around the customer, you have to empower each other. This is about how do you make sure the people in other parts of the company, other sides of the organization are successful doing what they do. And so you have to be a leader, even as an individual contributor, even as a a lead or a manager, and you're not at the executive level, or you're not a C-suite executive, it doesn't matter. The one thing we can control on a daily basis is how we behave in front of customers. That's the one thing we can control. And so it not only starts with you as an individual, but how you run team meetings, how you motivate and incent your teams, how you share the strategy, how you expect them to execute. All those things have to be clearly communicated throughout the entire organization so that everyone knows how their role will play a part in delivering these amazing customer experiences and shoring up the business. So in the future, for me, customer-driven organizations will completely reset value and meaningful engagement with customers. It's going to be driven by the data, the analytics, and the insights, so you can determine which growth path is right for you, in which combination, and in which sequence. So with that, I would say, what will you do differently? What will you do differently because of what you've heard here today? Not only from my session, but from other sessions. This is really about giving you some time to think about, how can I be better? How can I be smarter? How can I use my growth IQ? How can I improve my performance? Ultimately, you have to start to ask better and more frequent questions of not only yourself, but of your employees and your customers. But at the end, I would say, be bold. Take chances, take risks. The worst that can happen is you fail and you learn, and you will be better the next time around. But ultimately, you have to give everybody an opportunity to try things that they're not very comfortable doing. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, especially as we get ourselves back to work and back to growth. So with that, I thank you. I thank you for your time spending it with me today. You can find research at salesforce.com/research to find a lot of the stats that I've delivered here. You can listen in on my What's Next podcast with Tiffany Bova, where I get an opportunity to interview some amazing people from around the world. And then I know a number of you who have already gotten a copy of my book, Growth IQ. I thank you for your support, but also some of you may also be getting a copy. So I appreciate your time today, that you're interested in building your growth IQ. And my name is Tiffany Bova. I'm the Growth and Innovation Evangelist here at Salesforce. I thank you for your time.